everybody. Welcome to Dragon's Demise at Origins 2019. We're super excited to be here. We're super excited to get back to Jenga interview format. And we're super excited to be talking to Eric Royce, designer of Spirit Island. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Jenga interview.
Yeah, we're so excited. We should probably recap the system we have here if you haven't seen it before. We will take turns pulling Jenga tiles. The green tiles are random fun questions. The red tiles are questions about the gaming industry, and the blue tiles are questions about a game or games designed by our guest star here. So, who goes first?
Typically, we give you, the guest, the first push, slash pull. So.
Okay, all right. Let's start off. Go here.
Yeah, we don't play by these strict, you can only take the one you've touched, or...
Yeah, this one is...
We're pretty generous with the rules.
Good.
Yeah.
I think I may need that.
You're almost there.
Oh, you can use your other hand.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, very generous with the rules.
And then place on top.
Yeah, let's place on top.
Great. There we go.
Okay. So Spirit Island is your second published game after a game called Fealty, which came out around 4 to 5 years ago. And that's relatively recent, I feel like. How did you get involved in game design sort of in the first place?
There's a couple of different answers to that question, depending on how far back you look. From one level, I've been involved in game design since I was a kid. And I made my own, roll and move board games for go back 3 spaces.
Sure, your
and I
Candyland clones.
Yeah, exactly. And I never really stopped. I would shift focus from board games to role-playing games or computer games. I've been a programmer for much of my life. So, but I've always designed games of some sort. So that's sort of the game design part. But then there's changing, lots of people will make games, but there's a difference between making games and making games with an intent that they be published.
Sure.
And there wasn't a single crystallizing moment. I read some stuff by Andy Looney of Looney Labs, which was sort of formative in that regard. Although he and I enjoy very different sorts of games, the advice which he gave was still super helpful. And then I was playing some game, I can't remember what it was. It was like a small press game of some sort, which had a fun theme, but the mechanics didn't really carry the weight. And the rule book was really problematic. And I'm like,
We've all played those games.
I can make something better than this. I'm sure I can make something better than this. And this, people paid money for this. I paid money for this.
Yeah.
So that's when I sort of did okay, someday I'm going to get published. I'm going to work on it. And I started sort of practicing more conscientiously with that in mind and trying to finish off designs instead of just playing with them and go from there. So, yeah.
Very interesting.
Awesome.
Would you like to do the honors?
We have a precarious little situation up here.
Which you're just going to completely ignore.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to play like my dad.
Yeah, poke around.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I should have done that.
That does the job.
Yeah. I'm not very good at dexterity-based games, but all right. So, blue, because I want to ask you about Spirit Island, because it's my favorite game. As anybody who listens to the podcast, we mentioned Spirit Island probably every other week. I want to hear a little bit more about the inspiration of Spirit Island and where they came from, and how it got from that point to the game we're now playing.
Okay. The initial inspiration came when I was playing, I can't remember which hero, may have been Goa, and had a colonization action, and the colonization action ignored the fact that there were indigenous people who lived there entirely. They're just abstracted away, and I was like, that's kind of rude, and mentioned it to the table and got a laugh. And we then moved on, but the remarks stuck with me. I was like, that is unfortunately prevalent. And so I'm like, well, maybe we could, design a game where things go differently. And there's definitely that sort of element of fantasy, alternate reality, wish fulfillment of, okay, things gone differently. It is what happened was terrible, and it would have been nice if that hadn't happened. And thinking how could it have happened differently? What could have been different? Because in a lot of places, maybe the short-term proximate reason that local resistance didn't drive back the colonizers was due to, warring chiefdoms or other, sort of local turmoil. But usually just the weight of population and disease and technology means that unless the European colonizers lost interest or had like a war at home that distracted them, that from a sort of historic perspective, the outcome was just a matter of how long it took.
Sure.
I can't remember which island it was. Was it the Canary? No. There was some set of islands where they were slowly conquered and assimilated by the Europeans over like 10 successive attempts, each of which like chipped away a little bit more.
Little footholds.
Yes, they kept coming back. So I thought about what could make it different. And one thought was, well, what if the spirits of the land, sort of not any specific religion in mind, but sort of vaguely just thinking general animist tradition of some sort. What if those were real and not necessarily like, sort of subtly real, but real like in a Godzilla smashing down New York kind of real. Like, the colonizers show up, okay, we're building our houses and what's that?
Right.
That my imagination seized on that idea, and then I just kind of took it and ran with it.
That's amazing.
Which, took me away from any sort of historical simulation.
Which is probably for the best, because I don't like those games.
There's so much I say historical simulation, which sometimes brings to mind like coin games or other very involved, but there's some, King of Siam is another game which deals with colonialism, and in it, there's like 3 different factions inside of Thailand, and if they tie, then like the British win. But it's an interesting treatment, which is much more historically grounded.
Sure. No, what historical brought to mind for me, Thief. That's like 1429 or something. I can't remember the year that it's an academy game, which the female characters can't win.
Oh, jeez.
Because it's not historically accurate. I know.
Sorry.
Well, you can win if you get married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's just what we want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay, patriarchy.
Yeah. No, I marched my pink armies across the board and everybody else gave up. So I
think you won.
I still think I won that game.
Yeah, they scooped. You won.
Yeah. So, So
it's the higher level of victory. Like you hit the game condition victory, and then you hit the level of, I have done so well at this game that I can rewrite the victory conditions.
we call it the moral victory.
There you go.
All right. I think it's your turn.
My turn. Okay. All right. Let's
take it away.
Let's not try and make things too precarious yet. Is this one okay? That feels pretty solid. That feels a lot better. There we go. Okay. Stack things up away from that precarious ledge.
Yeah.
Do you have one in mind?
Oh, I think it's your turn.
Okay. We're going to trade off. I see. So with Spirit Island, you have so many different game elements that can be swapped out, almost very modular. You've got the different spirits, you've got the different adversaries, you've got the different scenarios. What was the process of balancing each of those things like? Was it just playtest, 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 tinker? Or did you sort of have in mind almost like a master design document where you said, okay, I know that these need to be balanced around a very specific thing, and then sort of just pivot around that? Or neither of the above. I don't know anything about games.
So it's kind of different for all 3. The simplest one is scenarios, so I'll answer them first. Scenarios, they're modular unto themselves. You can play them in conjunction with an adversary, but often don't have to. So they are just like, come up with an idea, test it to get the dynamics right, and then make sure that the difficulty falls within a very broad range. Like I like them to generally be at least, I usually like them to not make the game easier, or if so, not substantially easier.
Sure.
And it's nice to have them be no higher than difficulty 4 or 5, so you can combine them with an adversary for different flavors if you're a high-level player. But beyond that, it's like, let's just find out how difficult it is. Like, I don't have a target in mind, and balance is mostly a matter of making sure that it doesn't change the game in ways which make it unfun for an entire swath of spirits. Or if so, like calling that out on the adversary card, saying like, or the scenario card, like this is a lot harder for these spirits.
Yeah, and that the game does a very good job of that. You do a very good job.
It is, it's sometimes tricky to foresee. I don't always catch all of them. And with new spirits coming in Jagged Earth, it's becoming even trickier because there's more and more and more. It's like, oh wait, this 1 out of 24 doesn't work as well. But for adversaries, usually those get designed around a central conceit of some sort, which may be thematic or mechanical. And the details of that conceit will usually take like 1 to 3 levels of the adversary. So they aren't always layered on at once. Like France has, first the extra explorers, and then the explorers turn into towns after you build.
Right.
And sort of those two together, plus the slave rebellion, are sort of like, that's the core of France, and then everything else is just small additions. So I'll usually try and get the dynamics working on the core things, and then try and find other thematically appropriate difficulty adds which step it up in reasonable increments, so you don't have like difficulty 1, difficulty 2, difficulty 9, difficulty 10.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of a jump there.
Exactly. The spirits, in the original game, well, I'll talk about that in a second. For the spirits, it's a lot of iteration. Like you start off with, here's an idea, try something, and the early testing all has to be about game dynamics and feel, and is the core concept fun? And then from there, you narrow into balance. It is easier to make a less powerful spirit, to give it power and make it balanced, than it is to trim down power level, because when you're trimming down power level, you sometimes cut away part of what made it fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're testing a spirit, if it's underpowered, testers will tend to not have as good a time.
Right.
So
power is fun.
It's true. Yes. Yes. There was one spirit which was a candidate for Jenga Earth, which didn't make it in, where one of my sort of early testers who sees things before anybody else does was like, that game was fantastically fun. I'm pretty sure this spirit is hideously broken. Because I shouldn't have been able to do that. So that's sort of now, originally though, there was this C, because when I was doing the initial development, okay, we have these spirits and we have these adversaries, but I don't have any calibration yet. There's no firm point.
Right.
So it was all very like iterative, like, okay, here's a bunch of spirits, here's a bunch of adversaries. Let's try playing games. All right. So these are better and these are worse, and okay, nudge a little, like try and pat, get them into a pat, roughly comparable power band. So just lots and lots of iteration, lots of trial and error.
All right. The nitty gritty.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's my brick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go for this. Nope. Yes.
Oh, you got a green
Get a
one.
little green one, a little goofiness going on here.
Okay. Elephants.
That's a great answer.
It's
What's the
great.
question?
So I'm gonna ask my favorite green question, which is, outside of games, what other hobbies do you have? I have a lot of
very excited
hobbies.
about
More than I have time for, by a large factor. Even before I had kids, that was true. Now it is even more true.
I'm just gonna
My
let you two talk about
my
it.
knitting students say that my hobby is hobbies.
That's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah.
Let's see. A few of them. I'll just rattle off a list and brainstorm, and then you can ask about any particular ones which pique your interest.
Perfect.
A number of these are going to be things which I may not have done for between 5 and 10 years,
Sure.
because like I did them once upon a time but haven't gone back to them. So let's see. Dance Dance Revolution,
Nice.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, reading, role-playing games, parkour, rock climbing, taiko drumming. Music is, I'll call it a hobby. I've dabbled in electronic composition. I have no formal background in music other than half a dozen years of piano playing, but it's something I want to get back to one of these decades. No, seriously, this is how I organize my hobbies. I have this theory. Do you mind digressions?
No.
Go for it.
So I have this theory where, like, okay, if I'm going to, let's say I want to study 4 different things. You can either like get good at one thing and then move on to the next, or you can try and do them all in rotation. And if you do them all in rotation, you're going to get good at each of them much more slowly.
Yeah.
Not just because of the innate effect, because you'll forget things between. Like if you imagine, practicing piano every week for 3 months versus practicing piano 1 week out of the year for 12 years, you're going to get better in the first case than in the second case.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. So it's like, okay, what do I want to focus on now? So for the things where I feel like I really might want to dive deep in them, and game design was one of those. It's like, all right, here are those things. And that's why I say sort of a hobby. It's like sort of a hobby, sort of something I want to get more into. Here's the thing, let's focus on this one and get really, really good to the point where even when I'm not focusing on it super strongly, I'm still fairly good at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, okay, now I'll try adding another thing to my portfolio.
Sure.
So yeah, let's see, programming, that was, career for a long time, but also just something I love doing. I've been coding since I was like 8,
Nice.
and it's really fun. let's see, what else? Archery.
Everything. This is a Renaissance man right here.
I don't do any. I have not done any knitting or what are they? Crochet.
Knitting, crochet.
There's a generic term for it, which I'm blanking on.
Fiber arts.
Fiber arts. That's it. Yes. So I haven't done any fiber arts. Let's see.
I do all of them.
Nice.
She almost has her own sheep.
I do have a fleece in my basement.
See, that's like halfway to a sheep.
Yeah.
I'll do like puzzles or puzzle making.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but it was I make a treasure hunt for my kids for each of their birthdays.
Sure.
That kind of thing.
Nice.
Jam making.
I also make jam.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. We actually, when we moved to our current place, we planted fruit trees, and we're hoping, they're getting to the point now where they will bear fruit, but we need to devise a system to keep the birds from eating it all. So.
Yeah, we have raspberries and strawberries in our backyard, not in such quantities that I can make jam from.
Yep.
But we have the same bird problem and squirrels.
All right.
Dastardly
All right.
squirrels.
If I think of any others, I'll randomly interject. Any questions on any of those?
No, I mean, that was an interesting deep dive into just your philosophy of hobbies.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
That was awesome.
All right.
I think it's your brick.
Let's see. This
Brick block. What do we call these?
Bricks?
A quick trick brick stack.
There you go.
I like hawks and socks.
Oh. All right.
So, Jagged Earth is coming out relatively soon-ish. I don't want to light a fire under you or anything, but so that was announced. It funded. You've got that coming out, and with Jagged Earth was, I guess, when the initial publication came out, was this something that you knew you wanted to expand into? Like these were spirits that had previously been left on the cutting room floor, and you wanted to bring them back, or is this all new space, or is it a bit of a mix? How did this come to be?
It is a mix. How it came to be, I have always known that I wanted to explore Spirit Island more and make more things for it. Both spirits and a variety of other things. I'd love to do a Dahan-centric expansion someday. Which my pie in the sky dream is being able to make the Dahan a playable faction. We'll see if that actually pans out. But at the very least, more lore about them and some more Dahan-centric spirits, like Thunderspeaker. So I knew that I wanted to do this since, I don't know, always. The sort of commercial, yes, this will be viable from a financial perspective, came pretty fast on the heels of Spirit Island Publishing because it took off really quickly, which was great. I was over the moon, partly because, hey, my game is doing well and people love it, and partly because, hey, that means I get to play in this universe more.
Right.
As for the detail, the specific things in Jagged Earth, there are a smattering, there were two spirits which could have been in Branch and Claw, but were not. One focused around strife, one focused around disease, just like the two existing ones are focused around beast and wilds to some extent. Those did not end up, the original Kickstarter funded well enough to get those two spirits in Branch and Claw, which it almost didn't. One or two playtesters might have murdered me in my sleep for that. They really like Sharp Fangs Behind the Leaves and would have been like,
It's my favorite.
Yay. So those two spirits were already yes, okay, here we go. One of the two was the disease-centric one, was when I'm late in the design process, I realized, with help from Ted Vessinis, who is lead developer for Spirit Island and a game designer in his own right. He has a Phoenix Syndicate coming out soon. Okay. That spirit, it basically had too much going on. It was there's enough stuff here for 1.5 spirits. So instead of trying to put it into a box it doesn't fit into, let's take its two areas, separate them apart, and then add to each. And one of the two of those has already been previewed. That's Vengeance is a Burning Plague, for the disease-centric. The other half is the one spirit which has not yet been previewed, Shroud of Silent Mist. And then the other one was Trickster. Okay. Trickster stirs up trouble. Their concept is the same, but the mechanical implementation has changed a fair bit.
Gotcha.
The other spirits were all. Let me do a quick roll call in my head. None of them were ones which I had developed for the core game and then not had space for. Like when we put out the core game, it was like, okay, this, we don't know how well this will do, so let's fit everything in here that we can, because it's like this might be our one shot.
Right.
Sure.
But there were a number of ideas which had occurred to me in passing or since. Fractured Day Split the Sky was an idea which came to me when the initial Kickstarter went over and took too long to deliver. I'm like, I can make a Spirit of Time, throw it together real quickly, and then maybe have Adam do some art and like do it as a print and play, as a We're Sorry. Well, as it turns out, it did not come together that quickly. And in fact, in the current like wind down of playtesting, it's one of the ones which is still getting tweaks.
Oh, wow.
Well, time,
Time.
wibbly wobbly.
Yes, exactly.
Timey-wimey.
Also, the very high complexity spirits take a lot of attention.
I'm sure.
Because there's a lot of stuff going on with them. There's various and sundry concepts and ideas which cropped up. Some of the one or two of the adversaries were sort of mechanically ideas which I'd had, but they weren't thematically. I needed to consult with Paul from Greater Than Games to figure out what they were. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, so some of the things are it's everywhere from yes, this was an entirely designed spirit, all the way to nope, I don't know. There were, I think at one point I had 27 spirit ideas for Jagged Earth, and that's 27 to the point of like I have more than some scrolled notes, but I actually have something which in theory could be tested.
Yeah.
And then
And how many are there? I know.
10 in the game and 2 promo.
Okay.
Now, a lot of that is because some just didn't pan out, and
Sure.
others where it's like, oh, this is promising, but it will require a lot more work, and it would fit better in like a notional Dahan expansion.
Future expansion mission.
Yeah, exactly. But as it is, it's kind of like, okay, we promised 12, that's good, but it actually would have been a lot better if we'd promised 10 or 11, because this fall and winter, like a few spirits took up a disproportionate amount of the work, and it's like, this might have been easier if we just said 10, so we had the freedom to like cut one of them and push to the future, and so we could have more time to like go on this. But that basically meant that I didn't get out much this winter.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Life of a designer.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's been lots of fun. Like I like working on them. It's very satisfying.
That's awesome.
That's good. That's great.
All right. Is it me or is it you?
I think it's
Yes, I just did.
Leslie's turn.
I think it's me. Oh, jeez.
You got this.
Do I?
Da-da.
No, maybe I don't.
You clearly have your heart set on green.
Yeah.
There you go. That'll work.
Will it?
Yeah.
This is probably a really bad angle for the video. Sorry.
Look at the back of her head. It's
We
fine.
shouldn't jump scare you, should we?
No.
Okay.
Aha!
There you go.
This is, related, but because, Spirit Island is my favorite game, and the theme is so strong, and the theme is very important to me in games, I want to know what your favorite game is that you have not designed.
Okay. You need to have that qualifier because
I do.
because Spirit Island is probably my #1 game. I still play it for fun. Just I don't have time to when I'm playtesting, but in between, it's like, yes, let's just play this because I enjoy it.
They played it last night at 1:00 in the morning. Yeah.
We won.
Nice.
Sleep deprivation aside.
The not of my design favorite game. I can give you a handful of them. I'm not sure I can give you one.
Sure.
It'll
good.
depend.
Top 3 maybe?
Let's see. Argent the Consortium is very high up on the list. Designed by Troy Chambers. It's a sort of magical academy worker placement game where workers have special powers. So like one of them can fireball another one, and you yourself have a bunch of special powers in the form of spells. It's really neat. And its second printing, I think, just came out recently. There is a game called For the Crown by Jeremy Leonard, which is a mashup / hooking together of chess and Dominion, and it works way better than such an unholy union has any right to. Like, it's fantastic.
Wow.
It does really neat things. So there's some neat designer notes in the rulebook about like how he feels each one addresses the weaknesses of the other. He's targeting a particular crowd. He's targeting people who kind of enjoy chess in general, but don't want to memorize openings, have a single pawn loss cost them the game eventually because a small incremental material advantage will just snowball into bigness, and who would like to play a little bit more fast and loose chess than like, yeah, sure, look ahead a few moves, but you're not planning 9 moves ahead.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like me.
Yeah, check it out then.
Okay.
It's really neat. By Jeremy Leonard, Victory Point Games, I believe. That's one, and then what would be a third? Oh, I'll throw in one of the games I like more than anybody else.
Sure.
It's a game I rated 10 on Board Game Geek, which I think the average rating is like 4.8,
right?
Which is Twister. Having heard some of my hobbies, perhaps this won't surprise you.
I was thinking, I was like, there's
but I haven't played. I don't think I've played Twister in 10 years at this point. But there was a time when it saw regular rotation at my game nights, and would play it as like once you hit a certain level of experience with the game and physical fitness, it becomes a macro level dexterity game with actual strategy. Now, there's also a substantial random element because there's the spinner every time. And you have to play it with individual spins where like right hand yellow means one person's right hand moves to yellow, not everybody's. But if you do that, there's like, which one do I go for? Do I go here? Do I go around this limb? What does that mean for like the body positioning? And
this is really next level stuff.
Yeah, like you need to tape down the mat because otherwise it just doesn't work. But yeah, we've had my longest Twister match to date, I think, was the one in which we determined that once you get down to 2 players, you really need to make the board smaller. I think it ran 45 minutes after it was just the 2 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an epic showdown. Wow. So anyway, yeah. So that's a game I really like, which is not generally well regarded by the geek community, but I will stand by.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm not saying it doesn't have flaws. Oh, it has flaws, but there's nothing else quite like it in that space, which does quite the same thing. Although there's one by Bez in a Bind, which is in a vaguely similar space, which I haven't had a chance to try yet.
Yeah.
But it's more of a pub game, from what I understand.
Nice.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I think we have time for one more pretty solid question, and it's your draw. So whatever you're feeling.
That may be a mistake.
Yes, you got it.
There you go.
Oh.
That's illegal, but we play fast and loose with the rules.
Right.
So.
We do. So obviously, Spirit Island, it's your big hit. It's sort of your baby right now, but it's not the only game that you have going on. You have a couple others in the pipeline. And can you tell us a little bit about one of those?
Sure. I have actually early stage pipeline a bunch of stuff. Mid stage not, because when I had kids, I kind of dropped all my projects except my most 2 sort of advanced prototypes at the time. One was Spirit Island. The other was a game which is called Science or Die, which is signed with Grey Fox and should be going to Kickstarter later this year.
Awesome.
After we're done here, I can show you a little bit more. Maybe
that'd be great.
That's awesome.
It's a real-time cooperative dexterity game. You have 15 minutes. It's not turn-based. It's all simultaneous play. You're all working together at the same time. So in that regard, it might be like something like Escape, Curse of the Temple. But Escape, Curse of the Temple is mostly sort of quick symbol matching, and this is more spatially strategic, where you're trying to like play cards and build block structures and puzzle together tiles. It's less about there is a speed element, like there's time pressure, but it's not just a do things quickly game. It's a do things precisely and intelligently and try and figure it out game. So
sounds awesome.
We can't wait to share it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that right after this. Eric Royce, thank you very much for joining us. Would you care to do the honors in tipping over the tower?
I want to see how many of these I can.
Oh, wow.
Am I going to get all the way up?
Does that count? Hey!
There we go.
Thank you very much.
You're so good at Twister.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sitting down with us, for chatting with us about everything from your hobbies to your games. I guess we'll continue talking to you, but
Excellent.
That's it for this video. Keep an eye out for our next video where he teaches us how to play Science or Die.